This is a fact. I mean, while we had almost 30 network operators by the time we were getting to 2008 to 2010, between 2010 to 2015, Nigeria had become a graveyard, particularly of indigenous homegrown telecommunications networks. Many of them had died out. So we had people like who were vibrant, who were doing well, who were growing, who were handling traffic. We had networks like StarTech. We had networks like Starcoms. We had networks like Realtel. We had even an ISP network that was doing very well, like LinkServe. We had companies like Multilinks. We had so many of these companies. We had Monacom in I think Kano. We had Intercellular. And all of a sudden, a lot of these companies had closed shop. Now, it is possible that some of them ended up closing shop because of maybe bad management. I told you about many people not paying their interconnection debts. Some of the Nigerian factors. But some of them were not guilty of that. Some of the ones I mentioned, Starcom, StarTech, I can say were not like the Multilinks. I can tell you that for sure these were well-run companies. But then we had a situation where, and I will not mince word, I would mention names. We had a company like MTN that had been protected from NITEL, that had been encouraged to develop, that had given kudos their role in developing telecoms in Nigeria 2000 to 2010. They were actually the culprits. They had started to engage in all kinds of anti-competitive things against any company they noticed was beginning to do well and might eventually challenge them. And some of the tricks they used to use include making unnecessary complaints against those companies and then disconnecting them. And you remember what I said about disconnection. Disconnection in telecommunications is like treason. It's like secession. So at first, most of us didn't realize what was going on. They would say, oh, one company is guilty of call masking. One company is this. One company is that. And they would disconnect those companies. And because they had become the giant now in the industry, NITEL had lost his role. So you found that they became, even their staff became so arrogant, they would not listen to NCC. And that is why NCC had to find them. They are the company that engage in all kinds of illegalities, resulting in NCC finding them a lot of times. I think, and they have the distinction of being the company that has been the subject of the highest fine ever, when they were fined $5.2 billion. And that is because of their delinquency. So they've become the albatross on the industry. They've become the real challenge of the industry. I mean, I keep mentioning that there was a gentleman who was a staff of NCC who mistakenly, I think his name was Jim or something, who mistakenly opened his mouth and said what obviously people had suspected about MTN. That they were, as far as they were concerned, they could do whatever they like. that NCC had given them permission to disconnect anybody that they suspected of illegal call refiling. But what is illegal call refiling? Call refiling is illegal because people are trying to take advantage of technology to provide services at a cheaper amount of money. Meanwhile, MTN does not want the prices of telecom services to go down. They want it to go up. But all over the world, the prices of telephony is going down. And that is because of technology. You see, between 2000 and 2010, we had a new technology that started to grow. It was developed in Israel, and it was known as voice over internet protocol networks. And that is the internet protocol is for data services. Now, this internet protocol was now developed in such a way to carry voice. And then it made, once those data networks are established, it made them able to carry voice. And that is what led to reduction in the cost of voice traffic, because the cost of voice traffic now became the cost of data. You see? So, but as of that 2000 and 2010, the voice over IP, the quality was not yet good enough. So not everybody was using it. But by 2010, the voice over internet protocol the standard had become very high. And it became a technology that everybody could use. That is why you now see that the price of international calls have come down. And as that technology is being adopted by telecommunications companies all over the world, that is what is driving the cost of telephony down, because it can be provided at a cheaper price. And that is what should happen in Nigeria. But we have in Nigeria MTN going on an agenda that the price of telecommunications should go up. And that is because they have been indulging in all kinds of anti-competitive practices. And in fact, indulging in things that are illegal. And some of them, in my opinion, criminal. Like, for instance, demanding that people should pay them in dollars, demanding that Nigerian companies should pay them in dollars, contrary to Section 20, subsection 5 of the CBN Act. You cannot, you are not supposed to. And they are bold enough to continue doing those things. And like that guy said, that whatever they want, they will get. They had to sack the boy for revealing what obviously they have been saying within. So MTN has now become the problem of the industry. MTN has become so big, it has now taken the place of Nitel to start giving the industry, and that is what is killing the smaller companies. MTN will keep disconnecting them illegally, and MTN has to be called to order. And that leads me to the question of this current price increase. Like I said, prices should be going down, not going up. MTN was the one that started it. When Carl, their MD, about almost 2 years ago now, started making this call that the prices should go up. Why? Why must Nigeria's case be different? And it was also the same MTN that started to make all this demand that local operators should pay them in dollars, because now they've lost faith in the naira. And as far as they're concerned, the naira is now too dirty for MTN to collect. They're now refusing collecting for traffic exchange between international data access service providers who are Nigerian companies, terminating it on MTN network. Also, MTN went and set up MTN Interconnect in Dubai. And what they're doing is now they haven't killed off the international data operators because of their demand that they should be paid in dollars. They now had already set up MTN Interconnect to aggregate all traffic bound for MTN Nigeria network. And once they succeed in doing that, Nigeria would then, it is whatever MTN tells us, this is what the money we've made from the upstream, this is the money we've made from the downstream. They can easily now just tell us anything they like, and they can easily evade taxes. And it is time that the Competition Commission needs to look into and investigate. MTN has been investigated in Ghana for tax evasion. There has been complaint against MTN in Nigeria for tax evasion. Why are they trying to totally take over the industry and control the industry? And it is a security challenge for us if a company can completely dominate this sector. So, the biggest challenge we have today is the dominance of NCC, MTN. And right now, they've done it so well. Glo has reduced drastically. They even disconnected Glo over some whatever reason, I don't know. That is not allowed. Like I had stated earlier, that from the 90s, you don't have two big operators disconnecting each other. But somehow, NCC granted them to disconnect Glo until I think it was the presidency that stepped in. And Glo has been bleeding. Glo now has 12% of the market, while MTN has now gone over 50% of the market. They've become fully dominant. And even though it is 51% that MTN has, in terms of impact, their impact is that they're controlling about 80% of the market. It's time for MTN to be unbundled, to be cut to size, and to be made to obey the laws of Nigeria. They've grown in Nigeria. Nigeria has helped them. They've grown so much. MTN has 22 operations. They're in 22 companies. But Nigeria alone accounts for over 27% of the whole MTN group. 27%. You see? But they shouldn't now kill the country. They should not be allowed to colonize Nigeria. And how much do Nigerians have even in MTN Nigeria? Where is the Nigerian participation? And they are trying to kill off all Nigerian networks. I don't believe that Nigerians own up to 20% of MTN Nigeria. I don't know the figures. So, at the end of the day, you have a foreign company that has practically destroyed the indigenous participation in Nigerian telecommunications. And I don't agree that that kind of situation should be allowed to stay. We need to help Nigerians. We need to increase Nigeria. We keep talking of local content, local content, local content. The only way you're going to get local content is when there's local participation. Because it is local companies that are more likely to bring in local content into the industry. Not a company that has refused to fully embrace the Nigerian identity and Nigerian participation in its ownership. They are the biggest problem. they've become a problem. And just like AT&T became so big and became uncontrollable, the FCC had to commence a series of regulatory action to cut them to size. And that is called unbundling. It is time to unbundle NCC, MTN. And another thing is that there should be no price increase. There are other things. What should be done is, many companies have died out. What NCC needs to do now is to facilitate market entry, is to get more companies to come and request for license, is for NCC to encourage international investment in Nigerian telecoms. It is for NCC to issue more licenses, encourage people to come and seek licenses, not to turn Nigeria into an enclave of just one company. And it is when there is therefore competition that you will see that market prices will reduce. So you don't start by encouraging a dominant monopoly. That will lead to price increase. You should start by fostering competition, facilitating market entry. That is what will drive pricing down. Because the trend today, due to technology adoption of voice over IP, is that prices are going down. And instead, what are we doing in this jurisdiction? We're trying to regulate technology. We're trying to declare a technology as illegal. No. If we have the right tariffing, there won't be illegal call refiling. So I think we need to get this thing right. We need to get it right. And we need to shape the regulatory policies to be supportive of government policy. Government wants investment in Nigeria. And it is investment in Nigeria that through you bring in more companies, facilitate market entry, and that is what will be in line with what this administration is trying to do. So that's competition is at serious risk. Choices for consumers are not there. And if you want to make consumers pay more, you must show why. Why are prices elsewhere going down? And why would prices in Nigeria be going up?
Now, how has the NCC addressed issues relating to consumer protection and ensuring service quality across the telecoms industry?
For the mere fact that NCC approved that there should be price increase, for the mere fact that NCC is allowing disconnection, I'm not impressed with the current EVC of NCC. That's just what I say. I'll say. I think they're not getting the current. I know that the professionals in NCC have not even before this current EVC came in. They know what to do, and they know what they've been doing. But there seems to be a shift that is not really addressing competition issue and is not protecting consumers. When Professor Dambata was there, he made the consumers, I think he had this special mantra relating to consumer protection. But in this last 2 years or so, I think consumers are not, the interests of consumers are not properly addressed. I think there is a need for NCC to rediscover itself. From the days of Ndukwe, the way NCC has always been is that the consumers, as the mantra was in those days of Engineer Ndukwe, that the consumers are the object, the subject, and they are the sole beneficiaries of what the telecoms industry has to offer. Everything consumers must be placed first, must be placed next, and must be placed last. It should be about the consumers. It shouldn't be about one company and or companies coming together to wage war against smaller companies and against the consumers. I think we have to be very careful about that.
So you've touched on the challenges facing the telecom sector. What do you foresee as future prospects for that sector?
You see, if this issue is not addressed, the future is bleak. Very soon, we will find out that we have either a monopoly or an oligopoly, and then consumers will suffer. They will suffer because we will pay through our nose. You see, if the cost of call in another country is higher than Nigeria, you have to match it to the economic index. If we're looking at telecom, if we could do a telecom purchasing power parity, you will see that Nigerians are paying too much currently for telephony compared to the UK. If you do direct currency conversion, it will seem as if they are paying more. But when you look at the economy in which they exist, you see prices are going down there. You will notice that if we look at it compared to Nigeria, it is even Nigeria that is paying more in terms of parity. So, if we do not address these issues, we will find a situation that the Nigerian telecommunications market will be dominated by foreign-owned companies. You will find out that indigenous participation will slowly die off. And then, how do you then get local content? So it will become another area, and in fact, currently is another area that Nigeria is bleeding foreign exchange. When a company can insist that it must collect foreign exchange, when a company can decide to control, a company that is controlling traffic of up to 80% is now trying to tell you that I must be paid in dollars so that it can aggregate all its international calls through a company in Dubai, and then it will declare whatever it likes to Nigeria. I think FIRS needs to wake up. Otherwise, Nigeria, the future is bleak, and Nigeria will be a captive market. But if we do the right thing, telecommunications is going to be an area that will be important for national development. As we have seen over the years, right up to 2015, when things, in my opinion, started to go south. And this is not about anything. This is about my country, and anybody who is aiding this situation or that is going to bring problem to the country, well, I'm sorry, I'll declare such a person as an unpatriotic Nigerian. Nigerians need to work hard for what will benefit our country. We need to pursue policies that will encourage indigenous participation in telecoms. And we shouldn't allow indigenous participation to die. We shouldn't allow local content to diminish. It should increase.